Well, hello, visitors to and denizens of the YouTubeverse. I'm John, your social hermit in the woods, and today I wanted to do a video on a really handy little device I came across recently. This is something that I think is really nifty and I've gotten a lot of use out of, and you might too. Before I go any further, I should state that, as always, this is not something that I'm being sponsored to talk about. Nobody supplied me this. I bought this with my own hard-earned money, and my opinions are purely my own. And you're welcome to and suggested to make your own research and decide if it's something that you would like. So, okay. Well, a little bit of preamble would make sense here. Um, I do ham radio as a hobby, and both in that context, but also frequently outside of it, I find myself in situations where I would like to be able to test something electrical. Something's not working, or I want to set something up and make sure it's going to work. And the sort of tests I want to do most of the time are pretty straightforward. I either want to check a low DC voltage, something like checking, is a battery okay? A remote's not working, something's not working. Is it the battery? Well, check the battery voltage, see if it's a dead battery. So checking low DC voltages. And then the second most common thing for me probably is checking for continuity. In other words, uh, is there a conductive path between these 2 points? And you're checking that, let's say, does a wire have a break in it? Or you could be looking for the reverse. Is there continuity when there shouldn't be, which we would call a short circuit? Now, the usual thing you would reach for testing these kinds of things would be a multimeter. And they're not very expensive, at least for simple ones. And believe me, I have several. These are such a useful tool that I have one in the toolkit in each of my vehicles. I have a really good one with a bunch of extra functions down on my electronics workbench. I have one in my tool shed workshop. And there's one up here in the living room put aside in a drawer as well. And yet, even with having all of those, uh, I find myself in situations where I suddenly would like to be able to do one of these little electrical tests on something, and I don't really have one of those meters handy. So that's where today's device comes in. Uh, so it is basically an electrical test device. Let's take a look at it. Well, that's maybe not really giving you quite a sense of scale, so let's look at it next to a multimeter, or let's look at it in my hand. Right, folks, this is it. This is a device called the Volty Switch, and here it's, you probably can't see much of it. We'll try holding it right up and hope that goes into focus. Here it is in its little protective case. Slide it out of there, and you get this kind of oddly shaped little thing. Uh, This is the second generation. The first generation was just called the Volty. This is the Volty switch because we actually have a little tiny on-off switch on the back. We can turn that on and some things occur. All right, so how does this work? Well, this has a bunch of functions. All of them read out the same way. There are two light emitting diodes on here. There's a green LED and a red LED. And by flashing either the green or the red or both together, which the human eye sees kind of as an intermediate yellow color, the camera doesn't see that so well. The red over accentuates. It's to eye, it's quite obviously a third color. It flashes essentially kind of a Morse code set of information from that. So um, right now it's got a little flashing green on there, and that means it's kind of in standby. It's waiting to decide what it is you're going to ask of it. So the simplest thing you might want to ask would be DC voltage. And I've got a lithium iron phosphate battery here. The pointy end of the volty is your positive. The flat end is your negative. And for simplicity here, I'll use an alligator clip, put that to the negative, put this over to the positive, And now you get a Christmas tree type effect, which is a reset. The green was 10, 11, 12, 13. Let's try it again. 10 volts, 11 volts, 12 volts, 13 volts. Okay, so 13.0. If this had been some decimal tenths after the 13, it would have flashed one pulse of red for every tenth of a volt above 13. 13.0, I know I just had this on running one of my radios, which has a live readout, and it said 13.0. The Christmas tree kind of pulsing effect, let's see, we can get that again. If I turn this, let's take that off. If I turn this off and then on, you get that. That tells you it's doing basically a reset cycle. It's decided what it is you want to do with it. So DC voltage, first thing you saw there, and you can do from 1 to 30 volts DC in tenth of a volt increments. It will also do AC voltage. One of the things it comes with is this handy little reference card. And yeah, so DC voltage, 1 to 30 volts, AC modes, 5 to 24 volts AC, and there's a big warning, don't put this on high voltage. It's bad for this and probably bad for you as well. Another function it has is just straight continuity, and straight continuity, you just put it across the two sides of something you're testing, and if there's a conductive path, you see red. There we go. Okay, and so if I was expecting that to be conductive, the red would be good. If I was not expecting that to be conductive, the red would be bad. And I know just last week I was building an antenna and I wanted to make sure that there weren't any short circuits inside the body tube where a bunch of the connections were made. And this was really simple. I could touch it to one of the antenna elements, connect to the other end of the coax, and make sure that I didn't have any shorts. Okay. What else can it do? Well, it has another mode that's kind of handy for automotive or marine electrical when you want to check whether 12 volts is present somewhere. They call this body mode, and it works kind of the other way. For body mode, you would put the pointy end to ground, you'd hold it, and then all you do is touch various places to ask if there is positive 12 volts available. So you can reach all over, you can reach onto different places on a bus board, on a fuse box, and say, oh yeah, I've got 12 volts available there. I've got 12 volts available there. If you're paying attention, you'll notice that I've used that now reverse polarity, and what it's really telling you is that there's a reverse polarity voltage. That's why it's telling you something different than continuity using it that way. And if you try to do it forward in that mode, the problem is that it actually tries to now read a voltage, 2.0 volts. Now, I'm a big resistor. I've been called worse things. So, but that's a very handy thing. What else can you do with this? Well, it also has a non-contact high voltage sensing mode. In other words, you can take this and run it along like the wall, looking to see if there's buried live 120 AC in there. You can use it to check if a spark plug wire is live by watching the pulse go by. They do warn you in the instructions, don't necessarily trust your life to those results. So don't take this, pass it along a wall, say, oh, there's nothing there, and then grab your conductive skill saw and your metal gloves and ground yourself really well and start drilling in there. You might short yourself out and cook yourself. Having said that, I have used this, I've played around with it, and it is pretty good. I actually can trace hidden in the wall AC wiring with this fairly accurately. And for things like, again, like spark plug wires, pretty handy little thing. In addition to all those, it also has a temperature sensing mode. I haven't really used that. To do that, you turn it on at room temperature, you let it equalize for a couple minutes, and then you put it wherever you want to measure the temperature of, and it's got a, what's the range here? They give it in Fahrenheit, 0 to 140, so about minus 15-ish to kind of 60 Celsius kind of thing. And the same thing, it reads out. It tells you over here how you would read out a temperature and how you would read out negative values. negative values start with a leading long red pulse. There is yet two other modes it has that I'm aware of. One is a voltage change mode, and this you leave it powered off, you put it across a DC voltage, and it will store that voltage, and then it looks for, I think it's 0.05 of a volt change. So if there's like a parasitic draw you're not expecting, you can sit there for a couple of minutes. If it starts flashing, that means there's a parasitic draw on that circuit and the battery voltage is going down. And then finally, it has a charging mode. There is a very, very tiny battery sealed in there under a clear epoxy, and that is a little tiny lithium ion cell. To do things like the continuity testing, this needs to have its own battery, and so that's on there, and it recharges. Now, how do you recharge this? You would recharge it by putting it across a DC voltage in the on mode. So here it's on. Do this again, and I'm going to put it across my DC voltage. Let's do that again. 13.0. Okay, reset. 10, 11, 12, 13.0. And all you do is you put it across a DC voltage, anything like, let me check, I think it tells me here. Anything between 3 and 12 volts for 2 hours. And it tells you to do that about once every 6 months. I actually, about every 2 months, just had a little notification go off, and I just clip this with a couple of alligator leads, put it on a 12-volt battery or 9-volt battery, and off it goes. Okay, one other thing I should mention is the particular form factor. Why is it shaped like this? Well, it's shaped like that because they wanted it to fit in. If you have a Leatherman style multi-tool with their proprietary flat bit holders, this will actually fit in there. And now this both gives you a way to reach in and probe stuff, and you can reach the tools out and use this to help complete larger circuits. Now, if you don't have a Leatherman, if you have anything else, this will fit in a regular hexagonal bit holder as well. And I've sometimes used that with a hex bit extension that I sometimes carry, just to give you a little bit longer probe on it, and it's still all nicely electrically conductive. On the Leatherman, at least on this Leatherman Wave, if this is installed, you can fold this back into the handle, but that does not leave room to close it down properly. I think on some Leatherman models, you may be able to put this in and then fold it up and have it hidden in there, but at least not on my Wave here. So, okay. What else? You got a little tiny hole here. That little tiny hole is if you wanted to leave this on a keychain, another good way to handle it. Or it's a handy place to, if you have just a small piece of wire, wrap that wire under there to give you a longer conductor. But that hole sticks out. So if you want to have it on a keychain and nicely protected, there it is. Okay, well, I hope you found that interesting. A brief introduction to the Volty Switch. This has got to be one of the coolest little devices I've ever seen. I've had this about 3 months now, and there's probably at least once a week I pull this out to do something, including when I'm at home. There's times it's just faster to go grab this than it is to go get my multimeter and the leads for it and plug those all in and set the switch. And I'm already done. I've already done the test and put this away before I could have done all that. And it's always with me. It is just the handiest thing ever. If you want to look it up and look up getting one, they're made in the US by a company which I don't think takes itself too seriously, although they have a really great product. They call themselves PC Doodle. And be warned, if you order something from them, you're going to get an email confirmation back from something called PC Poodle. And when that happened to me, I freaked out and thought it was a scam and something was wrong. And no, they actually operate under PC Poodle, I think, is their mail order side, and PC Doodle is their in-house office. Anyways, if you're interested, you can look them up. They mail ship these things by mail. I got mine within a handful of days of ordering it. You'll have to see what the price is because I don't know what it is at the moment, but it wasn't too expensive in my opinion. And for the amount of utility, this has got to be one of the coolest things that I have seen recently. I would really recommend if you do any sort of electrical testing, if you want to be able to check battery voltages and things like that, and you don't want to have to carry a full-size multimeter or even a pocket multimeter, this is just such a useful little device. I can't speak highly enough of it. Well, there we go. That was a brief introduction to the Volty Switch. I hope you found that interesting. You might find one of these useful. And until next time, this is John, your social hermit in the woods, saying goodbye. And remember, kids, don't stick your fingers in the electrical socket.